This is African American History is American History. Welcome. I'm your host, Harlan Kearsley. This program's goal is to foster understanding, promote discussion, and expand knowledge through stories of historical events, bios of unsung heroes, as well as timely and relevant news stories which hopefully will paint a vivid picture of the effects of segregation, discrimination, and bigotry on the lives of both blacks and whites. Comparisons will be made between the many racially fractured periods of American history and what's going on right now. On January 1st, 1863, at the stroke of midnight, the Emancipation Proclamation took effect. All enslaved people in Confederate states were declared legally free. But it wasn't until the 13th Amendment was passed that emancipation would become a national policy. The 13th Amendment was passed by the Senate on April 8th, 1864, and by the House on January 31st, 1865. Even though the Emancipation Proclamation declared all slaves in Confederate states free, effective in 1863, not everyone in Confederate territory would immediately be free. The Confederates believed that the Emancipation Proclamation was wrong because it deprived them of the free labor system that they had grown to love and profit from for so many years. As a result, a number of states still under Confederate control simply ignored it. Despite the surrender of Confederate General Robert E. Lee at Appomattox on April 9, 1865, the Western Confederate Army of the Trans-Mississippi did not surrender until June 2nd. In the westernmost Confederate state of Texas, those enslaved would not gain their freedom until June 19, 1865. That's when some 2,000 Union troops arrived in Galveston Bay, Texas. On the morning of June 19, 1865, Union Major General Gordon Granger arrived on the island of Galveston, Texas. He took command of more than 2,000 federal troops recently embedded there. Granger's job was to enforce the emancipation of slaves in Texas, oversee Reconstruction, and nullify all laws passed within Texas during the war by Confederate lawmakers. The Texas Historical Commission and Galveston Historical Foundation report that Granger's men marched throughout Galveston reading the executive decree known as General Order No. 3, first at Union Army headquarters, then on to the Customs House and Courthouse, and finally to the Negro Church, now known as the Reedy Chapel AME Church.
The people of Texas are hereby informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and the rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and hired labor. The freedmen are advised to remain quietly at their present homes and work for wages. They are informed that they will not be allowed to collect at military posts and that they will not be supported in idleness either there or elsewhere.
By the time Granger read General Order No. 3, the executive to whom he referred, President Abraham Lincoln, was dead, and the 13th Amendment abolishing slavery still had yet to be ratified. The more than 250,000 enslaved black people in the state were free by executive decree. This day came to be known as Juneteenth by the newly freed people of Texas. The holiday received its name by combining June and 19. This is African American History is American History. On June 18th, 2021, Juneteenth was officially signed into law as a federal holiday by President Joseph Biden. When Juneteenth became a federal holiday, it was the first new federal holiday since Martin Luther King Jr. Day was adopted in 1983. Al Edwards, a civil rights activist and Texas state representative, said, quote, "Every year we must remind successive generations that this event triggered a series of events that one by one defines the challenges and responsibilities of successive generations. That's why we need this holiday." End quote. Franklin A. Thomas, who rose from working-class Brooklyn to become president and CEO of the Ford Foundation and the first black person to run a major American philanthropic organization, said, quote, "One day our descendants will think it incredible that we paid so much attention to things like the amount of melanin in our skin, or the shape of our eyes, or our gender, instead of the unique identities of each of us as complex human beings." End quote. It is observed for commemorating the emancipation of enslaved black people and celebrating African American culture. But even before it became a federal holiday, Juneteenth has been known and celebrated under various names, such as Freedom Day, Second Independence Day, Emancipation Day, just to name a few. It has been celebrated annually on June 19th in various parts of the United States since 1865.
Our watchword has been the land of the free and the home of the brave. Brave men do not gather by thousands to torture and murder a single individual, so gagged and bound he cannot make even feeble resistance or defense. Neither do brave men and women stand by and see such things done without compunction of conscience, nor read of them without protest.
Freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed.
We all require and want respect, man or woman, black or white. It's our basic human right.
You can't separate peace from freedom because no one can be at peace unless he has his freedom.
Today on Juneteenth, the day we celebrate the end of slavery, the day we memorialize those who offered us hope for the future, and the day we renew our commitment to the struggle for freedom.
From 1865, Juneteenth continues to resonate for African Americans. This country has faced many sweeping changes over those last 157 years. Jim Crow, widespread protests, electing the first black U.S. president for 2 terms, the loss of some powerful icons of the civil rights era, and the grief still fresh as we continue to mourn the recent killing of 10 black people by a self-described white supremacist in Buffalo, New York. And even through the pain, we still celebrate and honor freedom.
What I love about Juneteenth is that even in that extended wait, we still find something to celebrate. Even though the story has never been tidy, and black folks have had to march and fight for every inch of our freedom, our story is nonetheless one of progress.
This has been African American History is American History, the episode you've been listening to. A Brief History of Juneteenth was written and directed by Harlan Kearsley. The voice actors for this episode were Jeffrey Schubert, Robert McKay, Crystal Williamson, and Soraya Butler. I'm Harlan Kearsley, and on behalf of everyone here at African American History is American History, thank you for listening. And if you haven't done so, please subscribe. Once you do, you'll be notified as soon as new episodes are posted. Thanks again, and please stay safe. African American History is American History. Copyright H.C. Kearsley, 2022.